Hi everyone, it's Joe here from Lawn Solutions Australia and welcome to this episode of Turf Talk where I'm joined by Dave Little, who's the sports turf management teacher at Yallah TAFE. Dave, thanks for being on.
Nice to be here, mate. Thanks for the invite.
So, the head sports teacher at Yallah TAFE, now sports turf management teacher at Yallah TAFE. So, you're educating all the future greenkeepers and sports turf managers of the world. So, how long have you been in this role at Yallah TAFE?
This is year 6 for me on campus.
Yeah.
First year as a full-time teacher. I was 4.5 years part-time previous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, first crack at teaching. I really enjoy it. Something a bit different.
Yeah. The kids give you a hard time or they're all right?
Always. Yeah.
It's part of their job,
and that's
isn't
the
it?
good thing, it keeps me young, keeps me honest, and keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. So how many kids you got now? First, second, third years?
I think we've got close to 50 odd in total over the 3 stages. So I got a very big first year class this year of 22 kids.
Great.
And some young adults. And third year class about 16, second year class around 14 blokes. So, yeah, so good numbers.
For sports turf management, it's Yallah, and then where else is it around here? So you'd be pulling kids and young men in from around the place, wouldn't you?
Southern Highlands, Southern Sydney, all the way far south coast.
Yeah.
All that, yeah.
So they've got to travel, some of them?
Yeah, some of them travel and stay for 2 or 3 nights over the few days that our blocks are on.
Yeah.
So hopefully the clubs look after them and help them out with the comms and things like that. But, yeah, some of the guys have to travel quite a bit.
And what's been so you weren't, obviously you're a greenkeeper and not a teacher previously, so what's been the biggest challenge for you instead of applying your trade, then teaching it? Is it the people factor of it that's the most challenging thing?
I've never had trouble talking to people and managing people. I've always had apprentices and young staff with me for years. But I think the biggest issue that I faced was product knowledge, how much it had changed and how much it changes. And because you're not actively in the trade with your hands anymore, it's difficult to keep your hands on what's new, what's old.
Turf, chemistry, machinery.
Both, machinery, chemicals in particular. Fertiliser. So a lot of product changes. And that's the hard thing to keep you. I just find myself doing quite a bit of research after hours just to make sure I'm over some of the things that we need to cover,
Because you've been in this industry a long time now. What's sort of been what's been the history of Dave Little and greenkeeping?
It's really hard to say. Like I just turned 56 over the weekend, so I started thank you, mate. I started as a 16-year-old work experience in year 10 from Woonona High School at Woonona Bowling Club. And from there, obviously showed a little bit of initiative, and they gave me an apprenticeship there. So under the tutelage of Wayne Vardy, magnificent boss. Never yelled at me once when I broke a lot of stuff. So he was fantastic, and I was there for about 5 years. Moved on and did a couple of months here and there, just rousting about, doing some garden work, and took a couple of years to go to Kembla Grange Racecourse, where I worked on the course proper and inside the complex on race days. That was interesting. We used to work on the barriers race days. And load horses in, and I'd never had any horse handling training in my life. So, when you get bitten and kicked and stomped and trampled on, that was interesting.
You learn quick.
Learn how to get out of the way really fast. From there, I did 2 years as the assistant at Bulli Bowls Club. And then from there, did 11 years at Austinmere Bowling Club as head greenkeeper. So I think my career was cut short just before the club closed. And I ended up going back to TAFE, retrained as a landscape gardener. So started my own business for about 14, 15 years. And then TAFE come knocking on the door. So I had a crack at that, and here I am today, back in sports turf management, giving back to the industry that's basically given me everything I have. So,
that's great. And did you do your original training at Yallah TAFE?
I did, yes. I was the first class to actually start and finish at Yallah. But the campus opened the year before we started. But, we were the first class to start and finish. And I think it was like 30 years to the month that I've come back in to teach.
Full circle.
To the same campus. So interesting circle events, in between. 30 years is a long time. And I look back and go, wow, has it really been that long? It's gone so quick.
We'll talk about each of your jobs and the different aspects between racing and bowls and stuff. But let's focus on TAFE for a second. And you were in the first group 30 years ago, and then you're back now. What what are obviously things have advanced, but what are sort of the key differences between now and then, both for better and for worse?
I think for better, the course has gotten a little longer.
Yeah.
And they've provided a little bit more detail and go into some of the units a little bit more heavily for a Cert 3 course, which they didn't do. They were quite clustered back in the day.
Yeah.
So you were covering a lot of things within one unit, whereas now they're basically separate. I think that's good for us. The bad thing for us, as far as I'm aware or I'm concerned, is that some of the units cover quite a few different qualifications. For example, parks, gardens, horticulture. And so they're not very turf specific.
Yeah.
And I find myself having to do quite a little bit of extra work over and above what we normally do to make it sports turf specific.
Yeah.
Pest and disease, for example. Like there's not a lot of information in that unit that pertains to turf. So, the boys can't walk in and talk about parasitic gall wasps and bronze orange bug without having to get through all our turf pests and diseases as well. So I do all that separately and just make it and contextualise it for us.
Yeah.
So that's probably been one of the disappointing things I think about some of the new top content that's come over.
Yeah. So it's not as direct as it needs to be.
And it used to be, like I've got some notebooks still in the class from Gary Behag. He wrote them back in 1982.
Right. Yeah.
And they're pests of turf, diseases of turf, weeds of turf, specific units.
Yeah.
And now they're all sort of clustered together.
Yeah.
So, and it makes it a bit difficult to try and cover a lot of ground in a short period of time.
Because you don't have a lot of time really with them, do you? So what do they do now block-wise?
So we're doing block release. It's 3 days per month or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So we were on campus Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays.
Yeah.
So generally it's a 3 to 4 week turnaround.
Yeah.
There's some non-teach weeks in between, obviously, and school holidays. So they're on campus 30 days a year.
Yeah.
I think we were about 36 to 40 back in those days.
Yeah. Okay.
So we were there a little longer. And obviously we used to start and finish when the school holidays start and finish, but it doesn't work out like that anymore. Sometimes they're in a bit later March and leaving early November.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit more work to do after hours to keep grass maintained when the students aren't there. Yeah. So anyway, there's a few other things I could probably go into detail about, but just for another day, I guess.
And what's the breakdown for you now between theory and practical? Because you've got a bit of, obviously it's a big campus out there, you've got room to do stuff. So how does that work in a typical TAFE day between theory and prac?
So we break down each individual unit into teaching hours. And I mean, one of the units, for example, might be renovate sports turf. I think that we designate 56 hours for the entire unit. Yeah. And out of the 56 hours, we're sort of looking at about 20 hours prac.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and we've got the space and the facilities now to do the practical work. And I guess because the guys travel quite a lot and we've got them from all over different sort of areas of turf, we're able to get round to the locality and help out sports clubs and do those sorts of things for our practical work if we don't have those areas available to us on the campus. So, pretty lucky that way. But, sort of break down as, 20-odd hours thereabouts prac work and the rest theory.
So you can take the kids off-site and go and renovate a local bowls or a local footy field or something like that to get some bit of experience in them.
We did took the Stage 2 boys up for renovate to Mount Kembla Bowls Club last year. Yeah. And they're obviously volunteer run or volunteer staff. So had a bit of a relationship with the volunteer greenkeeper there over the years when I was in the association, the Greenkeeping Association. So, we went up and helped them out for a couple of days, got the green renovated. It was 3 years since it was renoed, pre-COVID. So we helped them out with that. The boys got their practical areas ticked off and we've been to Gerringong Football Club, done some oversewing and some scarifying, top dressing there. What did you help them for? Because my boss lives in Gerringong. So we've done a bit of work for them. Who else should we be helping?
Maybe you got someone. Magpies.
Oh, all right.
Every day and on Sunday.
Maybe one day we can come down and give us a hand.
We'll work something out.
So we get around and do a little bit community-wise. Got a good relationship with Grant Melbourne at Wynn Stadium as well. Yeah. So we get down there and help them out, line marking and things like that. Cool. So the boys can do some practical work there. Yeah,
that's great. And I know you're very proactive in your role. You've brought a few groups down here now as well to show them, I guess, the innovation and the advancements in the actual species world with turfgrass. And What's the reason behind a tour like that? What's the benefit you see the kids get out of something like that?
Oh, look, some of the guys don't get a chance to travel and go outside of their little bubble. And I think I remember when I was at TAFE, my teacher was Graham Scobie, and I thought he was a magnificent teacher, and he took us out to all sorts of places in our apprenticeship. And I remember vividly going to the Aussie, New South Wales, places like that, high end.
Yeah.
And I never forgot it.
Yeah.
And I just thought it's a huge benefit for us as students to go and see those places, how they operate, how they function. And I've done the same. I've taken that with me in my teaching role. And, as you say, we've been here a couple of times. We've been to Royal Sydney Golf a few times.
Yeah, great.
We've been to New South Wales. We've been to the Lakes.
Yeah.
And I know the supers there from previous, roles and stuff in Turfgrass. So have those relationships and able to do that. The students love it. They get to see how those high-end operations work, what their budgets are, machinery types, and what they don't have and what they, how they can. They don't have to stay in their little bubble or their little zone. They can shoot for the stars.
I guess that's one thing our industry, it does pretty well in a lot of instances. I know with the ASTMA conference every year, I know in our turf world, we have a conference and open days every year. Industry collaboration has probably improved a lot over the last little bit. I know it has in the turf farming world. We held a day just recently where we had competing turf farms in a room telling each other how they grow grass better to, rising tide raises all ships, whatever that saying is. So what's your experience in the sports turf, I guess, conference and education world as a whole? How do you see it? Do you see it as a good thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's one of the best things I think I've been involved in. As a young guy, my boss got me involved in the local Greenkeepers Association. So, and I took on a few roles on the committee as a kid, as a young bloke, bowl secretary, treasurer, and become president of the local association for quite a few years. Yeah. And then from there got onto the state executive committee as well for quite a few years. Yeah. So involved in all the conferences. I went away to conference week every year with the Greenkeepers. Yeah. I'm actually going away this May to the Bowling Greenkeepers conference out at Young. Oh, nice. So it'll be my first conference I've attended for a few years. Yeah. But I was very regular at conferences. Uh-huh. I always say to the young guys, it's good to be involved in the local association. And it's not that you can sit down and listen to people talk all day, in a lecture room or, at a conference. It's the times after that. Don't get me wrong, that's valuable. But after that, when the conference is over or the lecture's over and everybody's sitting around the table having a drink and talking about their experience, and that's where you get to share your wealth of knowledge and listen to the older fellas that have been there and done it. Yeah. And I've taken so much away from that. Yeah. So it's invaluable, mate. You can't put a price on it.
It's funny when we do it, we find the exact same thing. We get wonderful turf speakers from all around the world to come. And we get a feedback form when everyone's favourite thing is chatting to the bloke down the road or chatting to the guy in a different state and talking that way. And it's not only that, the connections that you've made over the years will be pretty valuable in your role now.
Well, I can travel anywhere in the state and bump into someone that I know in turf. Yeah. And not only in the state, but interstate. Yeah. And some of the people I've met at the national conferences and things I've become lifelong friends with. Yeah. And even the fellas I'll be rooming with in May, the guys I roomed with when I was 23, 24. Yeah. And we're all mates and we still are. We still talk at least monthly on the phone. Mm-hmm. So there's all those things, you never lose those things when you've got a lot in common.
Well, this, I guess our sort of relationship kicked off with you and Simon Adamant.
Yeah, 100%.
From an industry colleague back in the day. And Simon's actually done a couple of podcasts with us here now, but he did his most recent one on his history and I guess his opinion on the bowling industry, the bowling club industry. And we'll jump into that now because you've spent a lot of time at bowling clubs, as you touched on before. So what have you seen since the first time you started at Woonona Bowls as an apprentice to when you finished up at Ostermere? Has there been a lot of change in that industry or did it stay pretty stagnant?
Not really. The bowling industry is sort of one side of the trade that sort of remains the same for a long period of time because the greenkeepers get stuck in their ways and want to stay at those clubs for as long as they can. Yeah. And it's not uncommon for greenkeepers to be at their clubs for 30 plus years without issue. Yeah. And so there's not a lot of high turnover in the bowling club industry. And it's good and bad. There's a lot of good. Yeah. And there's not a lot of bad. Yeah. I mean, so I think it's probably one of the biggest changes I've seen in regard to the bowling industry is moving away from common cooch to tiff dwarf. Yeah. like we had a Tiffy green when I was a young bloke at Woonona, and my boss couldn't wait to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that was what we concentrated on for a couple of seasons, to get rid of that and go to Greenlease Park.
Yeah.
Every club had Greenlease Park.
Yeah.
And if there was an old bent green somewhere about, that was great.
Yeah.
But they've gone by the wayside as well,
Yeah.
which is a shame because they were awesome.
Yeah.
Just maintenance heavy.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's gone over to Tiff Dwarf now, and probably for good reason.
So the bulk of the greens around here would all be Tiff Dwarf now, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I haven't been around to every club in the district since I've started teaching, but I could probably just about say that there'd be a handful of Greenlease Park or Cooch Greens left.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah. And what was the process for you, let's say, where you were lost to me for the longest period of time, I think you said before, wasn't you? So what's it look like we have a lot of, I guess, lawn fanatics, people that listen to this podcast, and you see now how they've taken the work that gets done on a bowling green and applied it to their home lawn. What did your sort of renovation process look like back in the day on a bowling green?
Oh, it was pretty standard. When I say standard, it was I just brought everything I'd taken from my apprenticeship days. So it was maybe do a soil test. Yeah. If the club could afford it.
Yeah.
Look at the report and go, all right. But other than that, it was scarify 2, 3 or 4 times, maybe shave if you had to.
Yeah.
Laser levelling came in after I left as an apprentice, which was great because we didn't have to drag rails around, which my boss loved.
Yeah.
So it was a top 3 or 4 top dresses for the season, or a rail job, laser level, whatever it may be. And then, regular maintenance to get through to bring the green back into play. It was a rarity to have them around 14 seconds because Greenlease Park Cooch was very coarse. I used to do a lot of grooming back those days, which was probably not common.
Yeah.
But I used to like it, and they do a lot of it now. So I think that was pretty much standard. And, with the fertiliser type practices, it was 4 or 5 barrows of dry soil in a big pile, 6 50-kilo bags of some sort of organic fertiliser tipped in a pile and mixed together.
Because that's what's different to what I've seen before. You mix all the fertilising with sand in bowls.
Used to be, yeah. And it was all, you had to do it 5 or 6 times, turn it over and make sure you stuck a shovel in and it looked nice and consistent. And then it went out through a drop spreader.
Yeah, okay.
Washed in into the core holes and off you went. But nowadays, I reckon they're lucky to put 100 kilos out.
Yeah.
And it's all, slow release, controlled release, microfine prill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the prill size is outrageous now.
It's incredible.
Like
you can put it out when greens are in play.
Yeah.
Get it washed in and cut the greens the next day, and you wouldn't even know it was there.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yeah.
Like with the old stuff. So that was interesting.
It's good to see the innovation in that world. I know I think they're at the point now, particularly with I guess like pesticides and the safety around pesticides and the effectiveness of them. We're at the point now where I think it's going to go to another level. Products like a Celiprin now and
well, you can't buy it at the moment.
I know, it's wild.
It's just gone.
Yeah,
and you talk about the home lawn enthusiasts. They're the guys that are into it all.
Yeah.
So they're starting to develop knowledge as well. That's been one of the really interesting things I've sort of tried to keep an eye on over the last 12, 15 months, I guess. The homeowner has taken a bigger interest in how they mow and maintain lawn.
We should see the Primo, for example, the growth regulator that gets purchased by the homeowners now. Like 5 years ago, if you saw a bloke or a lady down the street spraying Primo to their lawn, you'd nearly fall over. But now it's the amount of Primo that the residential market's buying now is crazy.
Well, I still know of greenkeepers that have been in the industry 30 years that are too scared to use it.
Yeah.
I go, what for? Yeah. It's proven.
Yeah.
And, I remember using it when it first came out, just on all the banks that I couldn't maintain.
Yeah.
I used to get 4 to 6 week control out of it.
Yeah, it's great.
And thought, how good's this? I don't have to be up on this hill like a mountain goat whippersnipping grass. It was so good.
And away from bowls and into racing, because whilst it's still the same industry, I'd imagine the practices and everything would be totally different, would they?
Totally. Yeah. I think the biggest drama for me was getting used to the cutting heights. Yeah. Because coming from 2.5, 3 mil to 120 mil.
Is that how high they cut?
And going, what's going on?
Yeah.
But until you realise and see what horses do to ground over a course of a race meet and what you've got to do to actually get them repaired, And then talk about the ratings of the turf surface and all that sort of stuff too. It doesn't take long for you to actually change your mindset and go, right, now I know where we're going and why we have to.
So you're working at Kembla, you got a race day on a Saturday. What's prep look like for a racetrack like Kembla? And then what's it look like after a couple of days afterwards?
So depending on if we had a couple of weeks or a week between meets, Monday would look like moving the rail, depending on weather. So it'd be a day and a half to move the rail from, say, the 1,200 metre mark down to the home straight.
A day and a half to move the rail?
Yeah,
how long it take?
5 or 6 guys.
Yeah.
All done by hand back then.
Yeah.
So pulling pegs out from the legs by hand, sledgehammers, the whole day, day and a half. So we also had swapped goes with sledgies and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Mowing the track with rotary mowers, like out front type things. Yeah. And we used to roll the tracks up with a light or heavy roller the day before. So a full week, and that's getting the complex ready to go, grandstands, grassed areas for Sky Channel, all that sort of thing back then. And then rolling the track up the day before and having it assessed by the stewards of that afternoon or the morning.
That's when they rate it.
Yeah, and rate the track for the race meet.
Yeah.
And then race day would be designated areas. So generally, as I said before, I was out on the barriers for the day. Yeah. Other guys would be in the jockey's room, up in the stables, doing stuff like that. And then after the race day, depending on the weather we had and what the course was rated, whether it was soft or firm, we'd be out the next Monday, generally drag a steel mat around the place, pulling divots back over, or we'd be out there with rakes and stuff, and then day and a half top dressing by hand. So tractor and trailer loads of sand and soil, shovels, smoothing divot marks off with your feet, and then drag mats, rollers, reseeding, stuff like that.
Because what do you get typically let's say in spring, it's every second weekend, would it be, Kembla, or are they?
Yeah, well, we used to race Tuesdays as well back then. So we'd have a Tuesday meet and sometimes a Saturday meet. Yeah. And then we had trials on the Wednesday morning. Yeah. So you had the bee grass going as well as the course proper. Yeah. And we used to have horses come over from New Zealand, that stayed down in our area and used the facilities as their training complex. Yeah. Rough Habit, Viander Cross, 2 of the biggest horses I think I remember that used to come over, and they got races named after them, things like that. So it was pretty full on. And
I've always wondered in an industry like that, because I know obviously it's huge now, the gambling side of it, but did you get a lot of pressure applied to you from your perspective from the Sky Racing and the betting agencies and that sort of thing?
Maybe not us so much as staff, but I know Dave Anderson that's still there, course manager. He was under the pump.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
And there was always in that industry, because it generates a lot of money and a lot of interest. There's always someone that has a different opinion. Yeah, I mean it's like bowls and golf as well, but because it's high stakes, someone thinks the rail should be here or there, or we should have cut it at 110 mil or whatever. But someone always has an opinion over and above, and the pressure's on for sure.
I can imagine. I can only Spring Carnival at Flemington, them guys must be like, and you saw the thing at the Gold Coast the other year, one little thing goes wrong and it's immediate,
it's chaos
now, isn't it?
Well, even you'd have an incident in between races on windy days, for example, when the rail would blow down, and we'd be out there in races trying to put the rail back. Yeah. And, everyone's waiting for us. Yeah. And they're whinging. You can hear the commentators going, we'll be there shortly, ladies and gentlemen. They're still working on the rail, Yeah. So, that was difficult, but you just had to get on with it. Yeah.
Do you have many racing students in your class now?
I've got, I don't have any at present. Yeah. I had Luke from down the coast finish with me last year. Yeah. Great kid. I think Sapphire Coast. Yeah. I think the first year I was on campus, we had a young fella from Kembla Grange, but and I've got a fella from Goulburn at the moment in the third year. Yeah. So, but we don't get generally too many. Yeah. Only because I guess the opportunity is quite limited compared to bowls and golf.
So what's the bulk? Is golf the bulk of your students now, is it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd reckon probably 70, 75%.
Is that high? Right. Yeah. And then the rest is made up of bowls, racing and stadia, is it?
Yeah, a couple of state councils with wickets.
Okay, yeah.
So we got a few guys from local councils with cricket wickets come in.
Yeah. So how do you split up a course when you're talking cricket wickets, a different kettle of fish to a racetrack, to a stadium, to a golf green and a fairway? How do you keep everyone happy?
I guess it's a fine line, and it's something that you have to balance pretty. I know it's difficult to do, but I get a lot of buy-in from the students, and I want them to buy into what we're doing.
Yeah.
So what happens generally is those students give the other students the benefit of their experience.
Yeah.
As limited or as extensive as it may be.
Yeah.
And like we've had fellas come in that have been in the industry for 20 years but never qualified.
Yeah.
So they've been around a while and they know how to talk to the young guys.
Yeah.
And so, as I say, I generally get a lot of buy-in from that.
Yeah.
And everybody will benefit from that. And, I have a bit of experience all around the place, but growing grass is growing grass, I guess. It's just different techniques. And it's pretty easy to adapt when you get your mindset right.
Yeah.
And as I said before, we're fortunate enough to get around to a lot of different venues.
Yeah.
We do Dalton Park in Ferry Meadow quite a bit too with the cricket, with council. I've got some mates on council that help us out that way.
Yeah.
So, they host T20 games and things like that. So we get there, and that's probably the best wicket or venue in the Illawarra in regard to that. So, we can get across a lot of things. Yeah. Which is good.
Because whilst there is diversity in the types of grass and the cut height and stuff, the principles, I guess, are all the same.
All the same. Yeah. So, you talk about cultural practices. They're all very similar. It's just some of the techniques you have to adopt are different.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take you long for your mind to wrap around the concept of actually changing some things.
Yeah.
Especially, as I said before, coming from bowls where you're at 2.5 mil and then go to 120, it's like, how do we get something prepared so long?
What was the racetrack? Is it all kike?
It's Kai and Rye.
Kai and Rye, yeah.
So, and that was an interesting concept too.
Yeah.
Like, with the stadiums, they were oversowing rye for the winter months.
Yeah.
With the racetrack, it's oversowing all year.
Yeah, right.
Just to try and keep that length and that greenery.
You've got to keep the water up to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it provides a bit of cushioning for the horses too, So it's another concept that is a bit different, but you've got to wrap your mind around how it works.
Because we, back to the home lawn sector too, the amount of oversowing that gets done on couch lawns in the home lawn sector is crazy. Like, and the purchase of chemistry, like your monuments and your tribute, I think you use to transition. Like it's just it's a whole other world.
Yeah,
that's coming.
And for unqualified guys to actually take the leap, it's fascinating. Really.
Yeah.
I'm a member of some of those pages, and I you see some of the things. I'm just here for the comments.
Yeah,
and generally I am, because I just like to see how these people are going about their business, being unqualified, and some people have got a really good grasp on what's required.
Yeah.
The
amount of information available to them now.
Oh, absolutely. And, on those pages, there's a lot of qualified fellas as well that are providing an insight into their experience.
Yeah.
And I've done it a few times, and, it's really cool, the feedback that you get, because, some people might have the opinion that, because they're qualified, they don't want to give away any secrets.
Yeah.
I've found in the turf industry, that's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's happy to share information, ideas, products, technology, techniques. That's one thing I found a bit different with landscape when I was actually working in that industry. You'd bump into some landscapers that were landscape suppliers, and they were a bit guarded. And I don't know whether it was because we're all contracted and looking for different work. Yeah, and you didn't want to give away any secrets, and someone might steal a job from you. Yeah, I guess that's sort of how I felt.
Yeah, I suppose our industry. You work for this place and you're not competing for...
That's right.
Yeah.
But, as I said, you talked about the conferences before and getting together. I think that's one of the benefits when you get to know a lot of people. Yeah. You're more than happy to share ideas and theories. Yeah. And generally it's over a beer or two, and, then you start to meet other people and segue off somewhere else.
I suppose one of the great things about your history and what you're doing now is you'll see kids come through first year, second year, third year, and you'll actually be able to meet them out when they're probably looking after a course or a green or something like that. Now, that'd be a surreal feeling, wouldn't it?
I have it now. Like I've got some apprentices in that from my first year of teaching, their students have become head greenkeepers or course supers in the Highlands, and their boys are in now with me, and it's just I have that relationship with their boss, and we still talk. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of these people that I like detail, and I like to be in touch with all the employers. Yeah, I like them to know how I want to run things and what I expect. So we have a relationship with all the employers, which is really good. So it's a different feeling to see them sending their guys in to be taught by me as well. So,
and as a kid coming through the TAFE system now, and to be a sports turf manager, what do you see as I guess, the negative sides to our role, our industry now when it comes to sports turf management, and what are some of the really, really good things for people thinking about getting into this game?
I think, well, the negative has always been the money.
Yeah.
It's always been a really poorly paid trade, especially for young apprentices. And it's something that I've been trying to advocate for a long time, even when I was on the executive years ago. And, you know, it just feels like a never-ending battle with people to redo the award and reorganise this and the pay structure. And, you know, you look at the offshoot of that with carpentry and plumbing and, you know, they're getting big money as first-year apprentices. Our guys aren't. And there's a bit of a disparity between council wages and general sports turf wages as well per hourly rate. And that's a bit disappointing, but it's certainly no one's fault.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that's probably the biggest disappointment. It just things don't seem to progress.
I always found it funny when you look at, I guess, golf. Golf has a lot of prestige. Like, golf courses are beautiful places and they're often played by, you know, high net worth individuals. Like, golf has that prestige. And then you look, the guys keeping that course in Mickey Mouse condition all the time are paid less than what plumber, sparky, the builders paid.
Yeah.
So,
and they take their work home with them every day of the week.
Yeah.
And if there's a significant weather event like we've just had, they're on every hour.
Yeah.
You know, they're always there. They're always at work.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the same. It doesn't matter if it's weekends and you're rostered off or you're on holidays or you're away somewhere. Yeah. The club's always in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind, depending on the situation. I was just at Berry Bowls Club on the way through here today, and it's just been smashed over the weekend. And I can only imagine. I've been through that situation back in the late mid-90s, and I felt sorry for them. I felt like crying.
Yeah,
so I know exactly.
The place is a mess.
Oh, it's just terrible. Yeah. So, you know, there's all that. Yeah. But I guess on the positives, there's a lot more products, technology's better. Renovation practices have changed for the better, I reckon.
Yeah.
And I think the job's probably gotten a little easier, and I don't mean that, you know, because to make them sound like bludgers or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, with the machinery and the technology that we have today, it's made your decision-making process a little easier.
Yeah, of course.
The practical side of things is still there, and it's still difficult.
Yeah.
But and you're still dealing with nature and committees and members and things like that. That sort of thing hasn't changed. But just the way you can actually get about and do your work, I think you might get a little bit more peace of mind in the result, you know, and the process.
Sure. No, it's I think it's a rewarding thing too for a lot of people to see the end product that they can produce. And
it used to be something that you'd look forward to as you started your renovation season, knowing that you had your 6 to 8 week program in place. Yeah. And when you did make it, for whatever reason, or if you didn't make it for whatever reason, you come out the other side of that. And at the end of the day, my old boss used to say, it doesn't matter what path you take to get there or what road you take, you end up with the same result you would hope.
Yeah.
So, you know, you get to the end of the road at the end of the season and go, well, look what we've produced. And the staff are happy, the board are happy. Yeah. And it gives you a little bit of bargaining power to maybe go in for that extra few percent pay rise, you know.
It helps.
I always say results make things a little easier to negotiate with. So
no, sure. And with your students now, I'm guessing they're going to listen to this.
They better.
It's part of the curriculum. Yeah. What would they say that? Do they call you Dave, or do they have to call you Mr. Little?
I don't like being called Mr. Little. It's Dave or Davo generally. Yeah. And I've got a pretty good relationship with all the students. So, some of them are cheeky than others. Yeah. Because you've got characters there. Some are quieter than others. But, it doesn't really bother me what they call me, but Mr. Little is certainly out.
It's out of question, because I've obviously seen you with your students a couple of times, and I can tell there's a pretty good rapport there. Like, it's different to being a school teacher. You can kind of to and fro a little bit with them a bit more than what you could if you're a school teacher, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the best thing from my point of view, and I don't know whether I should be saying this on camera, but because I'll hear this and go, yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's just because I'm friends with their bosses and I've known their bosses for so long. I think they probably come in with a little bit more respect, knowing the fact that I'm in touch with their boss regular. We're mates. We exchange phone calls frequently and still exchanging ideas and theories and things like that. So it makes it a little easier for them to come in knowing that, they don't. First of all, they may not know me from a bar of soap, but they probably do.
Yeah.
Because of the relationship I have with their employers. So,
sure. Yeah.
I think that's probably helped me out.
Yeah.
In the early days, especially, because you're thrown in at the deep end and treading water for a while, not knowing what to do.
And then when they do something wrong, you can just pick the phone up and just point at it and say, I'm going to give them a call if you don't
it's like, mate, I've got your boss on speed dial. Would you like me to ring him now or,
Yeah. Oh, no, that's great. And the campus itself, so I actually went there the other week. I saw you there doing your thing. And what kind of, I guess, what's on site there for you to help you guys practically? Do you have? I noticed you got a golf tee that you constructed. What other stuff do you have there that can help you on the practical side of things?
So quite a few years ago, there was a half bowling green constructed.
Oh yeah,
and that was sort of let go for a long time. So when I started, it was about waist height in weeds. Mm-hmm. So we've renovated and reconstructed the bowls green.
Yeah,
regrassed that as well, and it's been back in play now for 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. So that's there. We've got we built a golf green 2 seasons ago.
Okay.
We turned an old volleyball court into a golf green. Mm-hmm. So redid the profile, drainage, irrigation over a few seasons or a few units, and put a new bent golf green in with couch surrounds, which is a mistake. But we just wanted different turf types on campus for the boys to look at and study. So we've done that. Last year, my third year boys in the construct unit built a brand new raised tee with USGA spec soil profile. So we used the new zoysia that we got from you guys on that, and that's come through really nice. Mm. So we're sort of in the midst of trying to plan for. We want to put half cricket pitch in. We've got an area that we can turn into an oval. Yeah. So we'd like to sort of do that at some point down the track. Our biggest issue will be getting soil. Yeah. So it's a hard resource to get your hands on. Yeah. So that'll be one of the roadblocks, but that's something that we have in the back of our minds for future.
So there's so much there from the diversity of trades that you teach. Absolutely. Everything there on site. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've got fairway areas that we look after that we've turned into, manicured lawn and even all our surrounds around the greens and everything have been looked after and redone. Yeah. And we're regularly spraying and doing our practicals there with, for control weeds and pest and disease, things like that.
I think you were doing some weed identification stuff when I saw you there the other day.
Yeah, they did their weed ident last week. So, and the campus, I think it's about 120, 140 acres. Not all of it's used, obviously, but it's a natural weed environment. Yeah. So we're always competing with stuff that gets blown in from everywhere. So there's no shortage of weeds on campus to do our practicals with and to ident. So, we get around and do all those. We pot them up and grow them live so they can see them in various stages. Mm-hmm. And it gets them to look at them established and also cut under normal heights. So so something interesting for them to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're obviously at TAFE a lot of your time. Now, the bulk of your time. Now, what do you do outside of, I guess, work and turf and all that sort of stuff? What keeps Dave going?
A couple of years ago, some of the students I have, all good bowlers, so they all represent New South Wales, all that sort of thing. They got me back into bowls. Okay. So they made me buy a set of bowls and, after each block we'd go to Whirler and have a game on the indoor. Yeah. So I've got back into lawn bowls.
You beat them?
Oh, certainly not.
Oh, that's not the answer I was expecting.
I get smoked, mate. They're just guns. Yeah. Like they've just got hand-eye and they can do it left and right-handed as well. It just blows me out how talented they are. And so I got back into lawn bowls. Yeah. I ride motorbike a bit on the weekends, sort of get out and do a few things like that. Yeah. And teenage kids that are driving cars and all that, causing trouble. Well, not causing trouble, but, chasing them around a little bit. Yeah.
Did you always bowl while you were?
I did. Yeah? Yeah, I started at school playing bowls for sport before I got to do work experience. Yeah. And I think that's probably what led me into doing work experience at the club.
Yeah, Simon Adamant for us was the same.
Yeah.
Always bowled.
So, always liked it. Represented with the greenkeepers a few times away for the national conferences and things like that. Mm-hmm. Probably because there was no one else to pick. There was only a handful of us that went away. I don't know. I'm sure that's not right. But, I enjoyed it and I still do. Yeah. It's a good social game and, some of the students that I've had previous, I still get around and have games with socially on the weekends or afternoons. So, it's something it's good. We keep in touch and, keep my hand in and keep an eye over everything. And of course, as soon as the members find out you've been in the industry, all they want to do is have a crack at you. Oh, what about this and what about that? It's like, hey, we're here for social reasons, mate. Don't worry about it. You know?
Yeah. No, it's always I always don't envy greenkeepers dealing with members and committees and stuff
it's
like
difficult.
that. It can be a challenge for you.
And we don't set our boys up to deal with that after the trade.
Yeah.
But it's something I'm trying to change. So
so you don't do some people management stuff with
and communicational type units anymore.
Yeah.
But it's something I'm implementing in the third year with the boys before they leave, so they can write reports and learn how to communicate with committees and their greens directors and things like that. It's an important part of the job.
Absolutely.
You've got to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hopefully I can provide an insight into that.
Yeah.
I've had a few dealings with committees over the years, so bring my experience to the table and hopefully it works for them as well.
It's such a big part of their role now, isn't it?
Huge role.
So,
huge part.
Yeah. Well, that's about it for today. It's always good to catch up with you. I like our little relationship we've built and how you can bring some kids down here to check out the turf world, and I can stop in up there and have a look at you.
Yeah, we love it, mate.
The work you're doing there. But I really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure everyone's going to get a kick out of this. And as when Simon came on this podcast, we got a lot of messages of people that have connected with him over the years. So I'm sure we're going to get some old friends.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Through that listen to this. So appreciate you coming on, and we'll keep working together.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, mate. I appreciate it.